open space here. There we go. Gotta get right. So today, guys, I wanted to take a little trip down memory lane and talk about the bikes that I've owned and kind of like my path into motorcycles. I was hanging out with a friend the other day, and he was curious how I picked my first bike and so on and so forth, first, second, third, I guess, what my thought process was, and I was like, oh geez, I guess I didn't really like consciously think of what my process was, which shows like what an ideal consumer I am. Like, I'm just like, sell me something fun. That's all I want. Let's get going. If you've been subscribed for a while, I've said this a couple times, but oh man, too much fun. I gotta do this. Oh, that was great. Let's start with my first bike. I've had two Vespas, and first I had a 50, then I traded that in for the 150, thinking that would be enough. And then when I got sober, I wanted to get a motorcycle because it was kind of like something I wanted to do my whole life. I just didn't think it was within reach. So I did shop around a lot. Like, I think I put the most consideration into my first bike, as most people do. I just didn't know what I needed, what I wanted. I wanted a sports bike, so I was looking at all these crazy sport bikes, and I just was a little intimidated by them, and so I started going into dealerships and sitting on the bikes that I wanted. I originally the first bike I ever sat on was the Honda Rebel. I think it was like the 1100, but it turned out to be the automatic. I didn't even know it until I started asking questions. Second bike was a Ninja 400, which I liked, but I thought was too big, which is funny. Third bike was the Ducati Monster. I sat on that, and I thought that was like the fastest bike ever. I thought it was just like the tank felt so big, and I was not going to do that. And then I went into BMW and sat on a S1000RR, which I was like, no way. But across the room, they had the G310R, and I thought that was like amazing. I thought that was like the same thing as the S1000RR. And I was like, wow, it's so much cheaper, and like it's just a little bit slower. So that was like that was my first bike. I jumped at that one, and it was $4,000, so I was like, wow, I can afford that. And I rode the hell out of that. Like, I beat that thing up. But I only had it for 3 months, but I put about 1,000 miles a month on it. I think when I traded it in, it had like 3,200 miles on it, and that was in 3 months. So I really, I did my long trips on that. I went to Bear Mountain. I used it a lot around the city, pretty much like a kid at Christmas. And that's what I think everyone is like with their first bike. Like, any excuse you get, I was just like, oh, we're out of eggs, honey? I got it, no problem. I'm going to go to Flushing. I was just on that thing, perpetually on that motorcycle. And then after that, let's see, I quickly outgrew that and really wanted something bigger. So I went like the total opposite end of the spectrum. And I got the Indian FTR, which is a V-twin 1200cc bike. That bike I actually fell in love with before any other bike. Like, that was my dream bike, so I was like, that's gonna be the bike I get when I'm like 20 years down the line. That's the one. Which is like silly to plan that far out, because it's not like it's a classic or anything. It's but that was the bike I wanted. And then I don't know, my birthday came. That's what it was. It was my birthday, and I was like, well, fuck it, I deserve something nice. It's fucking crazy. So let me buy that. So I bought the Indian FTR. I went out to Mineola Moto. Shout out Mineola Moto. You guys are great. Great experience with these guys. Kenny was the sales guy who helped me out. We still talk from here and there. But great experience with the dealership, and I thought that bike was so cool. I loved it. And it was big though, so like it wasn't nearly as like unruly as I thought, and so it really gave me some confidence because I'm like, oh, I can handle this, and I honestly could have handled this as my first bike. I really think I could have. I would have dropped it and been very sad and probably had to bring it in the shop. But I will say I had a tremendous amount of trouble with that bike. In many ways, I had, what was it, there's a recall of the bike. It was the junction hose, and I guess I was like the first for it to happen to. I think it was Christmas Eve, and I went out for a ride, and that shit burst on my foot, and I was like left out there in the cold for like 4 hours. It was a terrible day. So I brought it into the shop, then I got it back, and then there was an oil leak, so I brought it back. It was all covered by warranty, so it didn't cost me money, but it was just really annoying. And then but actually before I got it back, they let me know that something was up with my fork seal had blown out. But it looked like it wasn't from use. It was just like a faulty seal or something. I don't know. I'm not a mechanic. But so it was like 4 things back to back with that bike. So it stayed. I had it for a year total, and that bike was in the shop for like a quarter of that. It was like 4 months. But I got about 5,000 miles on that bike, and I really did use it. I got out and did some long trips, had a great time, and I loved how that bike looked. Like, that thing was just so sexy, and I was, too new to the game and too, like, mechanically challenged, I still am, to do any mods. But that bike, I've seen it since, and that bike with a nice exhaust, aftermarket exhaust, take the cat off, tail tidy, bar end mirrors, just the small stuff, it really is all I care about. Makes that bike look 10 times better. It was like, I wish I could have done something cool with it, but I did enjoy it, and I am thankful to have had it. It actually got totaled. Somebody crashed into it. It was parked on the corner. So that bike was a goner, and I was sad about that, but excited to move on. And then, just like a bad breakup, I rebounded, and like 2 days later, I got the Yamaha MT-07 over at New York Honda Yamaha. And that bike was great too. It was like, again, I like kind of went the wrong way. I went from the G310R to pretty much one of the most powerful bikes you can get, or capacity-wise. Back down to a Yamaha MT-07, which is not a not powerful bike. It's just not, it's in the opposite direction. But the MT-07 was really fun, and I learned how to wheelie. I did a whole series on it, guys, so I'll post the link up here. You guys should check it out. Never got to, like, comfortably to my balance point, but I did get the bike up, and I did understand the mechanics of it. But you should check out the series. Got to learn how to wheelie on that, and then I also, really understood what revving out a bike was with that bike. So I had the confidence from the FTR of like, I can handle these bikes, and pretty much any bike I put my mind to, I think, I'm pretty sure. And then the MT-07 brought me back to like playful. It taught me how much fun riding a motorcycle could be, because riding the FTR, I just wasn't ready for it. I was too new, and I didn't need that yet quite. But the MT-07 brought life back into riding, and that's what was most exciting. So I do suggest, like, if, I don't know, as a first bike, it's a little dangerous because it's very peppy, has a lot of torque, and it can easily get away from you. So MT-07, probably not the best to begin with. Maybe the MT-03. MT-03 is a great beginner bike, or the R3 if you want that sporty look. But as a second bike, to keep things playful and fun, especially if you live in a city, the MT-07 was fantastic, and it was stolen 3 months after I got it. I put about 2,400 miles on it. But highly recommended. I think it's a great bike. Yeah, I wish I had it for longer. I wouldn't want to keep it for a long time. Like, if I could have it as a second bike, that'd be great, but like, it's great as like a daily commuter, fun around town. For the highway, it gets a bit tiring. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. Oh, God. Oh, what the fuck? Sorry, I got carried away with reminiscing. Yeah, MTO7 was great, a lot of fun, highly recommend it. And after it was stolen again, I just was like, I can't. So I bought that bike just in time for summer. I think I bought it in January, end of March is when somebody took it off my hands for me. And then I was left bikeless, and I was like, I'm not going this summer without a bike. And this is all recent. This is this year, 2023. So I went right on back to New York Honda Yamaha. I was like, hey, what's up, guys? Guess what happened? And then I checked out the pre-owned bikes, and another bike that I had always had my eye on, but just kind of figured was out of reach, was the Triple, the Street Triple. I always wanted one of those, and they had a used one. They had the 2020 Street Triple R, the low ride height version, and I didn't know it was the low ride height, but I guess I should have known because I sat on it and I was rather comfortable, which never happens on a bike. So I sat on like a flat foot, and I was like, holy shit, sold. So I took that bike, and I had that for like 2 months. Like, this was towards my career breakdown, and I was like getting ready to leave restaurants. So I enjoyed the shit out of this, and I like being able to rev the bike out until like 12,000, 10,000, 12,000. I had the notion in my head from the MT-07 that revving a bike out was okay, so I was still in that mode, and this just like continued to rev, and it felt even better the more you did it. So that I just loved it. But it did handle a little funny, and I was kind of like, you know, I got it at a good price, but I was like, oh geez, I don't know. So I went to Triumph to like get a few things checked out to make sure it's okay. I had to get it inspected, and then I ended up working at Triumph, so I was like there, and I was just surrounded by Triumphs all the time. And you know, if you follow me, you know exactly how this went, because this is not all that far long ago. This bike came in, and I was like, all right, if I can get rid of both vehicles, right, my scooter and my motorcycle, and consolidate to one bike, and especially like this one, which is like much prettier, it's kind of a win-win. So I actually, with my discount and with some help from the manager, I was able to get a good trade-in value on the scooter and the motorcycle that I had, the 2020 Street Triple R, and then I got this one in return for it, which I've had a much better time on the hand. Like, it's just much more dialed in. This is the 2024 Street Triple RS. So not only is it a bump in version from R to RS, but it's a newer model as well, and they did some work on the engine this year. The styling is completely different, and you're pitched a little more forward. It's not the low ride height, so it handles the way the bike was originally intended to. So this is my current bike, and it is my favorite bike that I've owned, and I think I've just hit that point where like I am comfortable on motorcycles, and this kind of gives you the tools you need to utilize all your skills that you've learned thus far, and it's capable of doing it in a very elegant way, is how I would describe this bike. But you know, each bike that I've had has taught me something, or I've taught myself something while I've had it, and I've learned a new thing. I've entered new phases with each bike, and it's been like at an expedited pace, because I've gone through so many in 3 years. It's about to be 3 years, so it's less than 3 years. It's crazy. So now I just feel not settled, but I feel like at a really good place in my motorcycle trajectory. But I'm thankful for having gone through each of those bikes, and like, you know, I wouldn't do it any other way, even if I could save money. Like, it's just, I really did go through a phase with each bike, and I'm not encouraging that everyone go through as many bikes as they can, but it depends on the type of person, right? Like, different people approach this differently, and like some people want one bike, and that's the bike they want for their life. They want to like baby it for 30 years and take care of it, and I mean, I want to take care of my bike too, but you know what I mean. That's one type of person. Then there's another person who wants to ride everything, and they're just like, let me get my hands on as many bikes as possible. And I'm somewhere in between. Like, this, I think, is the bike that I just don't really want to let go of for a long time. Even if I get another sports bike, like, this is just, I like this bike. I like everything about it. And I think it's fun. I think it looks good. I think it is actually a very good motorcycle, and I don't think I've even like touched the peak of what this thing can do. So it's everything and more. So I'm very excited to have this one, and I'm happy to be settled here. But yeah, that's been my history of bikes this far, and then there's a bunch of electric stuff before this, but I'm not even going to talk about that because that's not really interesting. But yeah, I don't know what's next, guys. I'm thinking, for a while I wanted a Harley. This is Battery Park, by the way. Again, very secluded. I used to run down here, so this is like has memories for me. I don't remember where this guy's house is. He's in one of these buildings here. Yeah, I don't know what's next. I think I always thought Harley, but I don't think I can stomach it. Like the price and the like. I don't really need a feel ride, you know, and to me that's what a Harley is. It's just for feels. It's telling me to go. Thank you. So I think that's out for me. I don't think I want to do that, and I can only see myself riding sport bikes right now. That's all I can think about. So that being said, you know, the S1000 single R, if I could ever afford it, if I ever get a job again and I could afford it, I would do the S1000 single R. I'm gonna pull over right here. What else? Ducati, I don't really much care for. Maybe it'll change when I ride one. Street Fighter looks the most beautiful. I love naked bikes. And then what's the other one? The R1, of course, but I don't even know. I think they just make it. No, the R6 they stopped making. The R1. And then the Aprilia. How could I forget the bike that I'm absolutely in love with? The Tuono Factory 1100. That's another bike I would want. But that's what's on my mind right now, and I don't know. It'll probably change. It always does. Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with everybody out there. That's been my history of motorcycles and things I could consider myself buying in the future. But I'm absolutely in love with the bike that I have now, and I also don't have the means to even consider any of this shit. So, yeah, I'm just going to be happy with what I got, and I enjoy this. So, I'm going to try to find out where my friend lives, because it's cold out here, and I don't want to sit out here waiting. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and I'll catch you on the next one. I got a Long Island trip in the works right now. I'm just waiting to hear back from my friend. So thanks for tuning in, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace.